Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Eagles Film Room. This is the one that you requested. I gave you 5 options earlier this week and there was only one you wanted to see, and that is what on earth is happening to Carson Wentz. It has been a torrid start to the season for the franchise quarterback, and not many people really understand what's going on, or more importantly, why it's happening. 2 games he's completed less than 60% of his passes, has 2 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. For context, the man has had 7 in each of his last 3 years, so he's already over half of that total just 2 games into the season, so clearly something isn't right. And what I wanted to do today was not only dispel a couple of myths and maybe link a couple of ideas from other breakdowns, but try and work out just how serious is this, can Carson Wentz improve, and what does the future hold. So sit down, get yourself a beer, you might need it, and hopefully you guys enjoy another episode of Eagles Film Room. If you do enjoy it, guys, make sure you leave a like and hit that subscribe button if you're new around here. It will be amazing to have you as part of our community. Make sure you drop your comments to let me know what you think about this. Have you learned anything new about Carson Wentz? Have I missed anything? Have you spotted something that maybe even I've missed, or any of the other guys trying to work out what's wrong here? And as always, don't forget you can get your daily dose of Eagles coverage from myself and all of our writers at phillysportsnetwork.com. Now, the first thing I want to do is absolutely shoot down in flames the excuse that Doug Peterson gave earlier this week. He said that Carson Wentz has been struggling with timing, with chemistry, because it's a shortened offseason, it's COVID, he's got a lot of new offensive pieces and he doesn't have time to really gel with them. I don't buy that for a second, because I want to roll back the clock to 2018, okay? Carson Wentz tore his ACL in week 14 against the Rams, and from that point all the way through to week 2 of the 2018 regular season, that offense belonged to Nick Foles. The offseason, OTAs, camp, preseason, all of it, the receivers were not only used to Nick Foles, his timing, his placement, the rhythm of the offense, which had totally changed with Foles at the helm, but Carson Wentz hadn't had any action, any snaps, any reps, any live hitting. He goes back into a game in week 3 against the Indianapolis Colts, right? And in his first 3 games back, throws 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. Completes at least 66% of passes in each game, and over 300 yards in 2. So I don't buy for a second that this is chemistry or timing, because he has had it way worse before off the back of an ACL tear. This is the cleanest offseason Wentz has ever had. This is the easiest offseason Wentz has ever had from a quarterbacking perspective. So let's actually get into the tape. The first thing I noticed when breaking down the film from week 2 against the Rams was that Wentz missed a lot of short and intermediate passes, and that's not what we're used to seeing. This is a high percentage passer who's a little bit more sporadic when passing deep, but that really wasn't the case here. On dumps and screens, slants, simple in routes, Wentz just really couldn't seem to hit his stride, and I was trying to work out exactly what went wrong here. And it honestly took a while, and I went back and watched 2017 film, and I watched 2018 film in order to try and get a gauge, and what I worked out was that his release is now very, very disjointed. That arm is doing all the heavy lifting. It's like flapping to the ground. You'll see a much better example of it here. So let's look at this play. What we're going to see is a flood concept to the left and a tight end coming out in the flat on the right hand side. Now what this should create, if it's man coverage, is a pick play for JJ Arcega-Whiteside. If it's zone, it's going to force the corner marking him to either come down onto Zach Ertz or sit back onto J-Jaw, creating an opening either way. Wentz gets the read right. J-Jaw gets a lot of separation here, but the ball comes behind him. Now why is that? Why was that ball thrown behind the wide receiver, essentially making it a dead play instantly? Again, I want you to watch the throwing arm and how Carson Wentz pushes it through the follow-through. Right now, there's not a lot of weight on that front leg, and Wentz is going to have to try and deliver that ball with a fair bit of zip to the wide receiver. He doesn't have that power in his lower body, has to generate it from the arm, but he doesn't swing the torso through in unison with the arm like he's so used to doing. What we're seeing is that torso come through first, and then the arm, which ends up just flapping down by his side. You might think this is normal, but it explains a lot of why we're seeing Carson Wentz be so sporadic in the pocket. It's not like all the misses are uniformed high or low, they're all over the place. And this throw from 2017 against the Broncos is a perfect example of what he's not doing. If you watch where that arm's delivering the ball, look how cocked that back leg is, the weight is evenly distributed, he's leaning forward into the throw, and because he's leaning forward, the whole body that he's stepping into the throw is delivering delivering momentum. It's not just coming up from his arm. Let's compare that to one we saw against the Rams, where he's flat-footed in the pocket and tries to deliver a strike to a tight end, which is way too high. What we see, because there's no power, he overcompensates, he loads up that arm and has to overexert it. So this is very much a chain reaction, and Carson Wentz's footwork is very flat-footed in the pocket for some reason. I'm not really sure why. If you compare this to 2017, again, against the Niners, nice little hitch step, delivers into the throw, and in one fluid movement, that arm comes down, delivers a perfect pass through to Alshon Jeffrey. You couldn't really ask for much better than that. So let's take things one step further. Let's look at 2018, where he did very similar things. His presence in the pocket wasn't quite as good as it was in 2017. The footwork was a bit messy. That back leg couldn't really find its setting. He almost double kicks it here, has to overexert with the hips again, and doesn't get his hips and shoulders aligned to the target. What's really subtle here is what that front leg does. Now I'm going to pause it before he gets the ball in his hand and just keep an eye on that left leg, because as it comes down, Wentz sees pressure, and I understand this is a bit of a difficult throw to grade, but he does a little hitch there, like he's loading up, but it's not really loading up, it's just a bit of a twinge, and now we see his hips and shoulders are pointing slightly differently to his feet. He overexerts the arm to compensate for it, the throw's misfired, and it's just a bit of a mess. Let's compare this to some Cardinals footage, 2017. How does Wentz feel pressure? How does he climb the pocket? Look at those subtle steps, keeps his base, and delivers in one fluent motion. That's the big difference here. I know it's a shorter throw, I understand these are contextual, but that's a very different throw. It's not until you watch something in stark contrast that you realise how disjointed this throwing motion has really become, and I don't know where it stemmed from. Whether it's the coaching staff, whether it's Wentz, whether it's something else, maybe the lingering groin injury, I'm not sure. But look at the footwork here. Remember that Cardinals clip of how he's light on his feet, he's moving around the pocket and ready to release. Here, he gets stuck in the mud, and the last time he did this was 2016. He sought a footwork coach, it magically improved, and then regressed in 2018, fixed a little bit last year, and again, it's happening because he doesn't have that firm base, or he doesn't get properly aligned to the target, or take the right steps inside the pocket, so he has to overextend with the throwing arm to generate that power. And this was a problem back in college, because Wentz would often lose velocity on throws, which is what we're seeing. How often have you seen Boston Scott, Miles Sanders, Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert, J-Jaw have to fall to the ground to catch a pass because Wentz has dipped it too low, or he's put the receiver in a dangerous position? And you look no further than that Rager play where he has torn his UCL in his thumb. Like, there are too many examples where Carson Wentz just hasn't put the ball in the right place because his fundamentals are all out of whack. Last time we saw it, 2018, coming off the ACL, here's a throw against the Cowboys, statue in the pocket, you can't generate power from nowhere, it ends up being inaccurate because he's got to generate it all from that flapping right arm. And the other thing we've seen from him in the past is falling away from throws, especially on those longer range ones, those 20-yard throws, where he has to fall away from the ball because he's put too much force on it with the upper body. No better example of this than in week 2. This throw to Ertz went 5 yards over the tight end's head. It's not acceptable. And we haven't even discussed going through reads. We haven't discussed the fact that he's being over aggressive or trying to force the ball into tight windows, or is maybe trying to play hero ball a bit too much. This is purely from a mechanical standpoint inside the pocket. And the best part is, this is all coachable. The coaching staff can absolutely correct this. Press Taylor can correct this. That's also the most worrying part, because they haven't, because they've allowed it to get through all summer and this is still happening. It's even been a problem dating back a bit further in 2019, and as I said before, in 2018. This isn't a new thing. Those fundamentals are arguably the only thing stopping Carson Wentz being an elite quarterback. And in a year like this, with the offense he has, this should absolutely be corrected, and it's not. So hopefully this gives you guys a little bit of an insight as to why Carson Wentz is struggling and the steps he needs to take to improve it. 1, the footwork, 2, the throwing motion, and 3, just keeping it all in one fluid movement instead of just having an arm up here and his hips over here. We all mocked Dak Prescott, right, for the whole hip meme that was going on during warm-ups. Oddly, that kind of motion, that zip, that power is what Carson Wentz needs right now. Now, there are some fantastic minds out there on social media who will dive a lot deeper into coverages and other things that probably I've missed here. Guys like Mark Schofield and Ben Solak, so go and check those guys out, toss them a follow. I know they've posted some great content already, specifically breaking down the Arthega-Whiteside interception. But if you enjoyed this video, guys, make sure you leave a like, hit that subscribe button down below. I'll see you soon.